I'm in Canada. We've been battling about the exact
man.
details of Quebec leaving for 50 years. And all that's ever happened is we keep devolving more powers to Quebec, and Quebec keeps agreeing to stay a little longer. And it's a country now. Ukraine could have done exactly the same thing. And what disgusts me is the Canadian government never got in there and really pushed hard for a Quebec-like status for Crimea or for Donbass. Had Canada just given some advice in how to be Canada, we could have maybe fixed this shit. Because Canada has fixed this shit before in history, a few times. And the fact that we're not doing our traditional diplomatic role amazes me, and I blame the Deputy Prime Minister, Chrystia Freeland, for this.
Yeah, but isn't Canada literally, isn't Quebec literally a province where everything is all French? Like French culture there is like paramount over everything, over anything.
Yeah.
So basically,
you go to Quebec.
It's like a country within a country.
Yeah.
Sure. But what has this to do with Ukrainian sending missiles to Russia Engels Air Base?
Well, you shouldn't be, because the solution to these problems is local autonomy. And Crimea had local autonomy, and Quebec has it, and Scotland has a lot of it. Why is this not appropriate for Ukraine? It was, and the Minsk proposals were getting us there. But when they were signed, we saw the people who signed them said they were insincere.
But the theme on this discussion is Ukrainians sending missiles to Russia's Engels Air Base in
that was a while
Saratov.
ago.
We've been on a lot of topics since then. Well,
Okay.
yeah. But if you want to actually relate it back to the immediate military situation, one way to look at it is Ukraine's, in a sense, acknowledging that it's going to end up in Russia. Because if they really believed that they were going to have sovereignty at the end of this, they would not be taking on the monster directly by
It seems like this conflict's going broader than these small details, historic details. It seems this conflict starts to get a broader view. It's two sides. It's a two-side conflict. I think this
is Europe as a whole at war.
It really boils down to conservatism against this new democracy, social democracy system.
I don't know if it's that simple. I mean, look at Ukraine is what? I don't really believe that. Ukraine is like 39th in the world for, like, say, LGBT rights, and Russia's 46th. Like, they're not fighting over those 7 points different. Like, that's not what this is about.
But it's in front in the medias, like.
Well, yeah, the media is always lying to you about what it's about anyway. But like,
that's how they have to sell it, though, right?
Yeah.
I mean, can we dismiss it so easily? Sure. Yeah, for the
I do dismiss it. Yeah, there's religious nuts on the Russian side that all think this is like, because Russian Orthodoxy and not anti-gay propaganda laws and whatever. They're all in favor of that stuff, and they love Putin for those reasons.
I'm actually Russian Orthodox, so you might want to just.
I'm not even thinking that the people who are Russian Orthodox are saying this, but I mean, American fundamental evangelicals who admire the Russian Orthodox Church because they like the idea of those laws are sort of sitting vaguely in the pro-Russian or pro-Republican camp outside the neocon camp because they like Putin, right? That is not a motive for the war.
Because these people think that, oh, wow, look, like, hey, wow, we're like the same. No, we're not the same. Like, I mean, I understand, yeah, like, wow, look, the Russian guys, hey, wow, this Russian Orthodox, wow, they're like supporting the same stuff as us, like, hey, no, LGBT and stuff. But then when it gets to the actual execution, whatever, what should we do? Like, hey, these guys are like the RCs and like the Catholics, hey, same crap.
Exactly. They will not be your friends in the long run.
Exactly.
And like, I'm also, because I argue fairly often against things like expanding Israeli settlements in the West Bank, okay, when I argue against that, basically anti-militarized Zionism, I have Nazis on the same side as me, right? There are actually anti-Jewish people who claim that that's inherent in Judaism and that they're all bad and so on. So I'm used to having bad people by coincidence on the same side as me, and I don't care, right? I think it is one of the reasons that I am strongly against continuing the Ukrainian crusade to go attack Crimea, because I don't trust Nazis around Russians at all, and I do think you're a Nazi if you let a Bandera statue stand up. But
absolutely.
I think also, if you're going to be very critical of Israel as a state, then isn't it also a moral obligation to not be with the Nazis in other conflicts too? Like, I don't want to help Nazis out more than I absolutely have to.
The Anti-Defamation League said Azov isn't Nazis anymore. So
yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Who cares? Okay, what about Adar? What about Kraken? What about Misanthropic? What about Tornado? What about Right Sector? There's like 45 of them.
I'm kind of playing devil's advocate, because I remember specifically they made some kind of announcement stating that there is no serious neo-Nazi problem in Ukraine, and I'm like, that's such.
Well, you just put that journalist on your list of quacks to ignore. Like, they're just lying to you.
It was the ADL though.
Fuck them. The ADL is nothing. They've been a front organization for a decade. They're not. All NGOs get taken over by somebody's politics, right?
I don't think it's supposed to use the F word because it's YouTube, right?
Oh yeah, okay.
Oh man,
you should have fucking used it, man. I tell you.
But Wyatt can use it because it's Wyatt's channel.
You guys, I'm gonna have to go, but nice to talk to you guys. Happy New Year, you guys.
It's 5 a.m. man in Singapore.
It's 10.
One is bad.
Here's the question.
Hey, can you hear me?